Hello everyone, now let us discuss about resealed erythrocytes. So resealed erythrocytes are a part of parenteral control release formulation. Here the RBCs have been extensively studied for their potential carrier and their capability for delivery of drug-loaded microsphere. In this system, the carrier erythrocytes are prepared and the blood sample is collected from the organism of interest. The erythrocytes are separated from the plasma, then they are entrapped with the drug and resealing occurs with cellular carriers. Hence, the overall process is based on the response of the cells under osmotic conditions. Through a process of reinjection, the drug-loaded erythrocytes provide slow circulating depots and target the drug to the diseased tissue organ. Coming to the properties, resealed erythrocytes should have certain properties. They are appropriate size and shape to permit the passage through capillaries. They should possess specific physicochemical properties by which a desired target site could be recognized. They should be biocompatible and should have minimum toxic side effects. The degradation products of the carrier system should also be biocompatible and minimum leaching or leakage of drug should take place before target site is reached. And the drug should be released at the target site in a controlled manner. It should possess the ability to carry a broad spectrum of drugs with different properties. And the resealed erythrocyte should be physicochemically compatible with the drug and should have sufficient space to carry and eventually to permit the delivery of clinically adequate amount of drugs. And the carrier system should have an appreciable stability during the storage. These are some of the properties or ideal characteristics that are required by resealed erythrocytes. Coming to the advantages of resealed erythrocytes, they are fully biodegradable, biocompatible and non-immunogenic, and the isolation of erythrocytes is easy and large amounts of the drugs can be encapsulated in small volume of cells. The entrapment of drugs does not require chemical modification of substance to be entrapped. Prolonged systemic activity of a drug while residing for a longer time in the body is seen, and it protects the premature degradation, inactivation and excretion of proteins and enzymes and act as carriers for number of drugs. And they have a potential to target the organs of reticuloendothelial system, RES system, and it facilitates incorporation of proteins and nucleic acids in eukaryotic cells by cell infusion with RBC. These are some of the advantages of resealed erythrocytes. Coming to the disadvantages, limited potential as carrier for non-phagocytic target tissue, and the possibility of clumping of cells and dose dumping may be seen in case of resealed erythrocytes. And because they are being from biological origin, entrapped erythrocytes may present variability and lesser standardization in their preparation compared to other carrier systems. Variability can be seen and lesser standardization can be seen in their preparation because of their biological origin. And accessibility of many important therapeutic targets like solid tumors, extravascular tissue components and central nervous system. Resealed erythrocytes cannot access very potential therapeutic targets like solid tumors, extravascular tissue components and central nervous system. So these are some of the disadvantages of resealed erythrocytes. Now let us briefly discuss about the erythrocyte membrane. The normal erythrocyte is flexible, elastic, biconcave, nucleated structure with a mean diameter of 7.3 micrometers and thickness of 2.3 micrometers. An erythrocyte is a biconcave disc which is an ellipsoid with pits and depressions located centrally on both sides. Here you can see the depression or a pith located centrally on both the sides. Other side also has a depression. So erythrocyte is biconcave disc which is an ellipsoid and it has a mean diameter of 7.3 micrometers and thickness of 2.3 micrometers. And hematocrit value is the percentage of volume occupied by the cells. The outer surface of the membrane bears a net negative charge due to carboxyl groups of sialic acid. The outer surface of erythrocytes bears a net negative charge. And the presence of carbohydrates on the membrane is possible for some of its antigenic properties. Negative charge is mainly due to carboxyl groups and its antigenic property is due to the presence of carbohydrates on the membrane of erythrocyte. Coming to the requirements for encapsulation. The molecules with 5000 to 6 lakh Daltons in size can be entrapped in erythrocytes. So molecular weight, higher molecular weight compounds can be entrapped in erythrocytes and the molecule should be polar and hydrophilic. Polar or hydrophilic. And once encapsulated, charged molecules are retained longer than uncharged molecules. And the hydrophobic molecules can be entrapped in erythrocytes by absorbing over the molecules. The example of drug is adriamycin. It is a hydrophobic molecule which is entrapped in erythrocytes by adsorbing over the molecules. And non-polar molecules may be entrapped in erythrocytes in the respective salt form. Example is tetracycline hydrochloride entrapped in bovine RBC. And the pores of dialyzed erythrocytes is limited to 400 to 500 angstroms, which allows molecules such as sucrose and insulin to equilibrate with intracellular space. And the molecules which interact with the membrane not considered to be appropriate for encapsulation in erythrocytes. The molecules which interact with the membrane are not considered to be appropriate for the encapsulation. The example is donomycin. And the molecule should neither interfere with the membrane transport system nor with the glycolysis within the erythrocytes. These are some of the requirements of drug molecules that are needed for them to be encapsulated in the RBC. Coming to the preparation of drug-loaded resealed erythrocytes, there are mainly two methods in the two steps in the preparation. The first one is isolation of erythrocytes and the second one is loading of drug on erythrocytes. Coming to first step, that is isolation of erythrocytes. The blood is withdrawn from cardiac or splenic puncture and through veins into a syringe containing a drop of anticoagulant. The whole blood is centrifuged at 2500 rpm for 5 minutes at 4 plus or minus 1 degree centigrade in a centrifuge. And then the serum and fluffy coats are carefully removed and packed cells are washed 3 times with phosphate buffer saline PBS whose pH is 7.4 and the washed erythrocytes are diluted with PBS and stored at 4 degrees centigrade until they are used. So this is the process for isolation of erythrocytes. Coming to the methods of drug loading in erythrocytes, there are various methods by which we can load a drug in the erythrocytes. They are hypoosmotic lysis, which includes dilution, dialysis, pre-swell and isotonic osmotic lysis. The second one is electrical breakdown, endocytosis, membrane perturbation, lipid fusion, normal transport and loading by electric cell fusion. Coming to hypoosmotic lysis method, the first one is dilution method. An increase in the volume above 50 to 75% of the initial volume and in hypotonic solutions. For example, is 0.4% NaCl. Erythrocyte membrane ruptures, permitting the escape of cellular contents. Whenever a volume is increased or in case of hypotonic solution, the erythrocyte membrane ruptures, permitting the escape of cellular content. And the equilibrium is achieved within 1 minute, which results in the cell swelling up to 1.6 times of its original size. Whenever an erythrocyte is placed on a hypotonic solution, the equilibrium is achieved within 1 minute and the cell swells 1.6 times of its original volume. And appearance of pores 200 to 500 angstroms in size occurs, which allows equilibration of the intracellular and extracellular volume. And at 0 degrees Celsius, the openings permit long enough to allow partial equilibrium of the intracellular and extracellular media. Increasing the ionic strength at 37 degrees centigrade results into resealing of the cell membrane. At 0 degrees, openings permit partial equilibrium of intracellular and extracellular media. And at 37 degrees centigrade, by increasing the ionic strength, this results in resealing of cell membrane and restoring the osmotic properties of the erythrocytes. This is a simple and fast method, efficient for encapsulation of low molecular weight cells is seen. Low encapsulation efficiency is a disadvantage with this method, and most of the cytoplasmic constituents are lost during the osmotic lysis. Here you can see in a hypotonic solution the cells inflate and eventually burst. And water is transported into the cells and the solute concentration inside the cell is higher. Coming to second method, that is dialysis method. A desired hematocrit is achieved by mixing erythrocyte suspension and the drug solution, and this mixture is placed into dialysis tubing and both ends of the tube are tied with a thread. And an air bubble of nearly 25% of its internal volume is left in the tube, and the tube is placed in a bottle containing 100 ml of swelling solution, followed by placing at 4 degrees for the desired lysis time. And after that or during that, the contents of the dialysis tubing are mixed intermittently by shaking the tube, and then the dialysis tube is then placed in 100 ml of resealing solution, because by this time the contents are out and now we need to reseal the solution, reseal the erythrocytes with the drug. Hence the dialysis tube is then placed in 100 ml of resealing solution, which is nothing but isotonic PBS whose pH is 7.4 at room temperature for resealing. And finally, the loaded erythrocytes obtained are washed with cold PBS at 4 degrees centigrade, and then the cells are finally resuspended in PBS. So this is the second method, that is dialysis method. You can see here this is the dialysis tubing and RBC in the dialysis bag. This is the mixture. Coming to the next method, pre-swell dilution technique. Swelling the erythrocytes without lysis by placing them in slightly hypotonic solution. Here, lysis of the erythrocyte is not seen, only swelling the erythrocytes without lysing them is seen. Swollen cells are recovered by centrifugation at low speed, and relatively small volumes of aqueous drug solutions are added to the point of lysis. And so slow swelling of the cells results in good retention of cytoplasmic constituents and hence good survival in vivo. In this case, pre-swell dilution technique, retention of cytoplasmic contents is seen, and this enhances the survival rate of resealed erythrocytes in vivo. This is simpler and quicker than dialysis, produces erythrocyte carriers which have good in vivo survival. Resealed erythrocytes can survive in vivo as long as native erythrocytes. So this is the erythrocyte and drug solution. Hypotonic, it is subjected or placed in hypotonic medium, that is 0.6% weight by volume NaCl. Here swelling of the cell occurs, and then slightly swelled cells are placed in isotonic medium, that is nothing but 0.9% weight by volume NaCl, and then resealing of the erythrocytes occurs. The next method is isotonic osmotic lysis. Transient permeability in erythrocyte wall can be prolonged using propylene glycol, which allows the drug agents to diffuse into it. And the lysed erythrocyte is resealed under isotonic conditions by dilution with a glycol-free medium. So these are the overall methods: dilution, dialysis, pre-swell dilution, and isotonic osmotic lysis. Here the percentage of loading is 1 to 8% in case of dilution. The advantages of dilution method are fastest and simplest, especially for low molecular weight drugs. Disadvantages are entrapment efficiency is very less, or percentage of loading is very less, which is 1 to 8. Coming to the next method, that is dialysis. Here the percentage of loading is high, 30 to 45% is seen. Advantages are better in vivo survival and structural integrity due to lesser ionic load. And disadvantages are it is time consuming, heterogeneous size distribution is seen. The next method is pre-swell method. Here also the percentage of loading is high, relatively high, 20 to 70%. Advantages are good retention of cytoplasmic contents, and hence good in vivo survival rate. Finally, isotonic osmotic lysis. And this method has an advantage of better in vivo survival. Disadvantages are impermeable only to large molecules and it is time consuming. So these are the various hypotonic, isotonic and hypotonic solutions. Cells, erythrocyte cells, they swell in the hypotonic solution. In isotonic solution, they remain themselves, and in case of hypotonic solutions, they shrink. Coming to the second method, electrical breakdown method. The electrical breakdown is observed when the membrane is polarized very rapidly using a voltage of about 1 volt, leading to the formation of pores. An increased membrane conductance is observed in this method, and the potential difference can be built up either directly or indirectly. The electrical breakdown takes place in lipid regions and at lipid protein junctions in the membrane. The example is urease membrane. So this is the overall diagrammatic representation of electrical breakdown method. Here, due to erythrocytes are subjected to electric breakdown, loading of large molecules is seen and finally resealing occurs. The third method is endocytic method. We know that intracellular vesicles could be induced in erythrocytes containing small molecules, drugs or virus from the external medium. And the vesicular membrane separates the endosized substance from the cytoplasm containing drug, which are sensitive to inactivation by cytoplasmic enzymes and also protect the erythrocyte membrane. Efficient for loading large particles such as virus up to 100 nanometers in diameter, enzymes and small molecules also. By using endocytosis mechanism, the erythrocyte is sealed with a drug. Intracellular vesicles are induced in the erythrocytes and the vesicular membrane separates the endosized substance from the cytoplasm containing drug. Here you can see the vesicular membrane separates the endosized substance from the cytoplasm containing drug. This is the cytoplasm containing drug. Here, the endosized material is separated from the cytoplasm containing drug, and then the drug-loaded erythrocyte is resealed. And the most advantage of endocytosis method is it is efficient for loading large particles such as viruses, enzymes, and also employed for small molecules. The next method is membrane perturbation method. Antibiotics, they damage microorganisms by increasing the permeability of their membrane to metabolites and ions. and this property exploited for loading of drug into erythrocytes. Usually the antibiotics, they damage the microorganisms by increasing the permeability of their membrane to metabolites and ions, and this property is extrapolated for loading of drug into erythrocytes, and example of drug is amphotericin B. The next one is lipid fusion. Lipid vesicles containing drug can be directly fused with human erythrocytes, leading to exchange of lipid entrapped drug. However, this method gives very low encapsulation efficiency of only 1%. The next method is normal transport mechanisms. The erythrocytes can be loaded with drug without disrupting the erythrocyte membrane in any way by incubating the drug and erythrocytes for varying period of time. By using normal transport mechanism, a drug can enter the erythrocyte, or erythrocytes can be loaded with drug without disrupting the erythrocyte membrane in any way by incubating the drug and erythrocytes for varying periods of time. The next one is loading by electrical cell fusion. This method involves initial loading of drug molecules into the erythrocyte ghost, followed by adhesion of these cells to target cells. The fusion is increased by the application of an electrical pulse which causes the release of an entrapped molecule. An example of this method is loading a cell-specific monoclonal antibody within an erythrocyte ghost. The antibody against a specific surface protein of target cells can be chemically cross-linked to the drug-loaded cells that would direct these cells to the desired cells. Coming to the characterization of free-sealed erythrocytes. Erythrocytes should be characterized for certain characteristics. The first one is drug content. Packed loaded cells are deproteinized with acetonitrile after centrifugation at 3000 rpm for a fixed time interval, and the clear supernatant liquid is assayed for drug content. They should be characterized for drug content. And the second one is in vitro drug release and hemoglobin content. The cell suspensions 5% hematocrit in PBS are stored at 4 degrees in amber colored glass containers, and periodically clear supernatant are withdrawn using a hypodermic syringe with 0.5 micron filter, and it is deprotonated with using methanol, and estimated for drug content percentage hemoglobin released may be calculated using this formula. Percentage hemoglobin release is equals to A540 of the sample minus A540 of background by A540 of 100% hemoglobin, where A540 refers to absorbance at 540 nanometers. This is the formula used to determine the percentage hemoglobin released. The next one is percent cell recovery, determined by counting the number of intact cells per cubic mm of packed erythrocytes before and after loading the drug. The next one is morphology. Phase contrast or electron microscope may be used for to study the morphology of normal and drug-loaded erythrocytes. The next one is osmotic fragility. The normal and loaded erythrocytes of the drug are incubated separately in stepwise, decreasing the percentage of NaCl, that is from 0.9% to 1% at 37 plus or minus 2 degrees centigrade for 10 minutes, followed by centrifugation at 2000 rpms for 10 minutes, and the supernatant is examined for drug and hemoglobin content. This is the process by which we measure the osmotic fragility of erythrocytes. The next one is osmotic shock. The erythrocyte suspension, that is 1 ml or 10% of hematocrit is diluted with distilled water and centrifuged at 300 rpm for 15 minutes, and the supernatant was estimated for percent hemoglobin released spectrophotometrically using the previous formula. And the next one is erythrocyte sedimentation rate. is also assessed. Rate of sedimentation of blood cells in a standard tube is determined, and the normal blood erythrocyte sedimentation rate is 0 to 15 mm per hour. The next one is turbulent shock. Loaded erythrocytes are passed through hypodermic needle at a flow rate of 10 ml per minute, and after every pass, a liquid of suspension is withdrawn and centrifuged at 300 rpm for 15 minutes, and hematocrit content leached out are estimated spectrophotometrically. The next one is determination of entrapped magnetite. HCl is added to a fixed amount of magnetite bearing erythrocytes, and the contents are heated at 60 degrees centigrade for 2 hours, and 20% weight by volume trichloroacetic acid is added, and supernatant obtained after centrifugation is used to determine the magnetite concentration. And the next one is zeta sedimentation ratio. It measures the closeness with which RBC will approach each other after standardized cycles of dispersion and compaction. Zeta sedimentation ratio measures the closeness with which the RBC will approach each other after standardized cycles of dispersion and compaction. The next one are miscellaneous cells. They can also be characterized for cell size, mean cell volume, energy metabolism, lipid composition, membrane fluidity, and other rheological properties. Coming to the overall summary of characterization parameters and the determination for resealed erythrocytes. The first one is physical characterization. Shape and surface morphology. Transient electron microscopy, scanning electron microscopy, phase contrast microscopy, and optical microscopy are used to characterize the shape and surface morphology. The next one is vesicle size and size distribution. Transmission electron microscopy and optical microscopy are used to characterize vesicle size and size distribution. The drug release is characterized by diffusion cell or dialysis, and drug content is characterized by deproteinization of cell membrane followed by assay of resealed erythrocyte and also by radio labeling. And the surface electric potential is characterized by zeta potential measurement. And the surface pH is characterized by pH sensitive probes. And deformability of resealed erythrocytes is characterized by capillary method. Coming to cellular characterization, percentage hemoglobin content is characterized by deproteinization of cell membrane followed by hemoglobin assay. And the cell volume is characterized by laser light scattering. And the percentage cell recovery is characterized by Newbar's chamber and hematological analyzer. Osmotic fragility is characterized by stepwise incubation with isotonic to hypotonic saline solutions and then determination of drug and hemoglobin assay. Osmotic shock is characterized by dilution with distilled water and estimation of the drug and hemoglobin. And the turbulent shock is characterized by passage of cell suspension through 30 gauge hypodermic needle at 10 ml per minute flow rate and estimation of residual drug and hemoglobin. Vigorous shaking followed by hemoglobin estimation is also seen. And erythrocyte sedimentation rate is characterized by ESR methods. The next one is biological characterization. Sterility is characterized by sterility test, and pyrogenicity is characterized by rabbit test and LAL test, and animal toxicity is characterized by toxicity tests. Coming to the storage of resealed erythrocytes. Encapsulated product and carrier both exhibit satisfactory self-stability when stored at HBSS at 4 degrees centigrade for 2 weeks. Another method utilized for storage is cryopreservation of erythrocytes in liquid nitrogen temperature. Storing in HBSS at 4 degrees centigrade for 2 weeks or cryopreservation of erythrocytes in liquid nitrogen are the two methods for storage of resealed erythrocytes. Coming to the release characteristics of loaded drugs. There are three ways for a drug to efflux out of the erythrocyte carriers. We have resealed the erythrocyte with the drug. Now let us discuss about the mechanisms by which the drug comes out of that particular erythrocyte within the body. The first one is phagocytosis, and the second one is diffusion through the membrane of the cell, and the third one is using a specific transport system. The rate of diffusion depends upon the rate at which a particular molecule penetrates through a lipid bilayer, fastest or greatest for the molecules with high lipid solubility. And moderate modifications of the compound can alter the rate of exit. Example of such compounds are nucleotides and nucleosides. Now coming to the applications of resealed erythrocytes, the first application is in vitro applications. Glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency can be a useful tool for discerning the mechanism that eventually causes it. Microinjection. Protein and nucleic acid can be injected into eukaryotic cells by fusion process. And the next one is utilization of erythrocyte carriers to introduce ribosomes inactivating proteins into cells by fusion technique. Coming to applications in vivo. The first one is targeting of bioactive agents to reticuloendothelial system. They are particularly useful in lysosomal storage disease, Gaucher's disease and liver tumors. Parasitic disease, removal of RES iron overload and targeting of mycotoxin to RES. Next application is erythrocytes as circulating carriers. They are used as circulating carriers with many anti-cancer drugs, vitamins, steroids and antibiotics. And erythrocytes are used as circulating bioreactors whenever they entrap drugs such as or enzymes such as arginase and urease. They are useful in the prevention of thromboembolism. They are useful for the treatment of poisoning also. Rhodonase and sodium thiophosphate can be used to lower the blood cyanide level and enhance the conversion of cyanate to less toxic thiocyanate. Resealed erythrocytes are also used for drug targeting other than RES organs other than RES system. Example are urease capsules that can be used to treat kidney failure. Coming to the conclusion, the concept of employing erythrocytes as drug or bioactive carriers still needs further optimization. A large amount of valuable drug work is needed so as to utilize the potential of erythrocytes in passive as well as active targeting of drugs. And diseases like cancer could surely find some cure using these novel techniques. Genetic engineering aspects can be coupled to give a newer dimension to the existing cellular drug carrier concept, and the drug-loaded magnetite-bearing cells can serve as a promising carriers for delivering drug to specific site. And the erythrocytes carriers are the golden eggs in the novel drug delivery system, considering their tremendous potential. Thank you.